from your house, and you're still on my mind. I could drive forever, you're never far behind. Autumn's falling.
Hi and welcome to the Explore Your Voice Show Season 2, Episode 2.
Yes.
My name's Michael Oliphant, and with me is Kate Slaney. Hi, Kate.
Hi there.
And Roger McLachlan. Hi,
Hello
Roger.
there. There's a nice E chord for you.
Oh, lovely.
Just to get your pitch in.
Good. Today we're talking about the role of the groove in songwriting, and the notion that probably songwriting has changed quite a bit in the last few years from the old days when you sat with a guitar on your knee or at a piano or something and a sheet of paper and a blunt crayon and you scratched out chords and lyrics and at some stage you maybe took that into the studio and recorded. Nowadays a lot of the time we spend in front of computers plugging in an instrument, and at some stage pretty early a lot of us will pull up a drum loop of some sort.
Yes, yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it does have the disadvantage of kind of setting in stone the groove of the song a bit.
It does.
Whereas perhaps a few years ago you might have been more likely to work with a drummer at an early stage of songwriting, and so had the drummer's input. Now often you find yourself in a situation where you're writing a melody or working on a lyric and you realise that you've already outgrown the drum loop you've been working with. You guys find that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because the drum loops,
it becomes a little...
it's not responding in any way.
Becomes a little static, doesn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's not responding to the changes and the morphing of the track, where you're putting more rhythm down, and it's becoming a sort of something that everyone's feeling. But the drum group still, whatever you've chosen, it's still just. Yeah, it sounds dead after a while. Bring up the keyboards and start, tracking in your own drum loop that's at least more responsive to as the song progresses, and at least starts to pick up on some of the accents and the dynamics of the song generally. Yeah. And you can start doing that, particularly if you've got good keyboard skills like Michael he has, and that can overcome some of the problems. But what we were sort of interested in is that it's kind of naive to talk generally that most songs are just written groove-wise from the drums, because a lot of people do still have a guitar on their lap today, and a lot of songs, very famous songs currently on the hit parade, their whole groove is driven by, say, the guitar. On some places, even
so when you write to a drum loop, there's a tendency to think the drum loop's doing all the making of the groove, but actually it's not true a lot of the time that the drum loop is somehow responsible for the main groove, and you just kind of sing to that.
It seems to be a bit of a trend. I know some of the pop music, some of the really big hits, and I say kind of manufactured hits, these production houses. I'm trying to think of a girl's name. She had a huge hit. And I love the songs, but they're all based around a huge drum groove. The drum groove is absolutely monstrous.
Yeah.
And
everything else is just like a pad.
Just like a pad, exactly.
Yeah.
You've got the string pad, you've got the bass just playing, sometimes almost non-existent, just playing long notes.
Yeah.
Supporting this humongous drum groove.
And it is a bit of a style.
It is a style, and it's great when you first hear it, but after I've heard it...
Yeah.
This is just me, but after I hear them for a while, I get a little bored. I kind of want more. I want to hear the band playing more.
Yeah, it is a bit of a feature of modern R&B that you have this drum loop, or this drum groove, and something of a boring wasteland, I tend to regard it, in terms of the other parts. But pads where deliberately nothing much happens, they're just holding down chords, and there's a few sound effects, and all designed
and
so
textures
that there's
and colours, but
well, you can see where it's going. It's all designed so that there's not much in the way of the vocal, because there's a lot of vocals.
Yes.
And so there can't be much in the way of complex instrumentation. So there's basically a whole bunch of vocals singing to a drum loop.
Yes.
Not, to boil it down, I suppose. I don't mean to belittle anybody's productions there, but it's more just sort of a stylistic question.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think, the point we're talking about here is that a bad assumption to make when you're writing a song is to think that it's about the drum loop.
Yeah.
Or the drum machine that you're working with. That we tend to think about the groove as the parts that are played by all the instruments in the arrangement, don't we?
And so the drum can just be doing a part of it, and the guitar can be doing just a part of it. And by itself, if it was just a guitar, you really wouldn't pick up the whole groove of the song.
Exactly.
Because it's just, I mean,
particularly
classically in funk music, people can hear in their ears where the guitar's just sort of playing
little parts of the rhythm.
That's right.
And it's certainly not the whole song. And that wonderful attitude of having space for everyone and everyone playing their part, and that's the whole song coming together, is important. Well, we were talking a bit before about songs. We're trying to think of songs that have been big more recently, where they're driven by, say, the guitar in the groove. And I was thinking of the band Train, and probably one of the biggest selling songs, his first single, Drops of Jupiter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great example.
And it actually just
opens. By the way, does anyone know what that song's about?
Well,
what are Drops of Jupiter?
That's a drug song, man.
Is it?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
I think it's a very metrosexual song about, I don't know, I think it's very much appealing to the horoscope kind of, perfect man, if only you find me.
Okay.
He's being very sucky, I think, in my opinion. I'm pretty hard on that lyric, but I know as a song it borrows on a lot of other songs, so we're very familiar with it instantly, and it's a hit instantly in your ears.
So the melody's rhythm on that one is a little da 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 da, that sort of,
and that's in the melody playing against the rhythm on the guitar.
So it's shuffled 16th.
Shuffled 16th, isn't it? Yeah.
And really, you have to say that vocal establishes the rhythm very firmly in the rest of the song.
And just like John Mayer's song, All We Ever Do Is Say Goodbye. Yeah, both of those songs, when you listen to the beginning of them, to me, the vocal and the acoustic guitar set up the whole groove. Like the song was grooving even before the drums come in.
And the drums are really just solidifying, aren't they?
Well, they are in John Mayer. If you listen to John Mayer's song, the drums are really back. It's still driven by the acoustic guitar.
And would you think that he could have done that song without drums and it would have been just as good?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a good example, isn't it? Not thinking that the drums are the only thing that sets the groove.
Yes.
And really, if you listen to that song, the drums really only appear after a minute or so into the song.
You've got the first verse, and I think the first chorus, all you hear is just the kick drum, just playing the odd accent. It really isn't until the second verse that the drums come in, but still they really sit underneath the whole vocal and guitar, which to me is the exact opposite of Train.
Yeah,
because the song starts with the acoustic guitar driven, the rhythm.
Yeah.
But when the drums come in, they're huge.
Yeah.
Halfway through the song, and as I said, then you've just got the beautiful string arrangement. The bass is just playing single notes, pretty much.
Yeah.
The bass isn't driving the groove as such.
No,
exactly.
The melody, the rhythm in the melody, and the rhythm in the guitar are driving the groove.
Absolutely,
and they're both doing different things. So
how does this translate for somebody writing a song and they've got their favourite hip hop groove chugging away in the background? Does that really mean that you're going to write a song which fits the groove? Surely that really means that, rather than writing to the extent of your imagination.
Yeah, I
mean, that's probably one of the possible outcomes, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. To me, in some ways, there's just no rules anymore. I mean, you can kind of take, for want of a better description, a funky or a hip-hop beat and actually have a hit, and it's not hip-hop, it just happens to have that kind of groove underneath it. It can almost be just a...
It's this endless crossover now.
Yeah. Exactly, endless crossover.
So probably to simply get away from being ordinary and say, well, look, here's my latest song, it goes to this beat, is to say, well, another way to create groove is to look at the roles of the various instruments in the arrangement. and the roles of, say, the acoustic guitar or the electric guitar or the keyboard or the bass part, those alone can set the groove. You don't need to find your main groove by the drum loop that you're working with. That can come later, can't it?
Oh, absolutely it can. And in fact, some ways I purposely, if I am using a loop, sometimes I'll go with the absolute straightest beat I can find.
But I think another example of that, it would be All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun by Sheryl Crow. The rhythm is really set up. It just starts ding ding, hit it. All I want to do, da 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 ba 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 da ba, and she's really doing that sort of preacher type sort of vocal.
And if you muted the drums out of that track, it would probably kick ass just as well.
Absolutely, just guitar and voice, and I've heard her do it that way. And she's just really, it's so much of that melody, so much of is really driving the rhythm, because she's sort of doing the whole sort of high talking kind of da 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 da.
It's almost slightly Bob Dylan, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Kind of half spoken,
and then comes into a sort of a normal type chorus.
But the chorus is good. The chorus has got a great bass line.
Yeah.
It's got the good. To me, that's the song gets interesting. There's this kind of boom, 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 boom. That little line is, to me, it's a little hook bass line.
But let's face it, the real hook is the vocal.
No, I thought it was the bass. So. It's all about the bass.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you write, Kate, do you write with drum loops or drum machines going in the background?
No, I can't. They drive me nuts. They drive me nuts because, well, increasingly I've found on GarageBand, which I'll just go to immediately, and even Logic, most of the grooves are for dance, and I don't write dance music, and so sort of like quite sophisticated hip-hop grooves and all the rest of it, and with all these enormous productions and sound and so forth, which come down and they normally boil down to the same kind of groove, but it's not. I could just do that by myself. Don't you find I could just have that going in my head and then play it on the guitar. I don't need it on the groove. And so really, one of the things that I try to do is I listen to different songs that I love and I play different rhythms and I get out of the rut that I'm in. So I'll listen to Walking in Memphis, or I'll listen and I'll play that along.
I think that's a great way to do it.
And then I'll listen to Baker Street and I'll play that on the guitar, and then suddenly I'm out of that rut that I was in.
Or a Katy Perry song.
Yeah, well maybe whatever whatever gets you out of the rut that and something that's totally different from you. I
think that's a really legit way to work it. Is to say, well, let's just borrow the vibe influence.
Yeah, because you end up with something that sounds completely different. I mean, I'll go for something that's a guy's voice and it's a different type of, it's a real blues song and it's a different vibe altogether. And I'm really writing sort of a alternative pop song. So, but it's given me an impetus to understand a different type of rhythm.
Yeah. I think one of the drawbacks with looking through loop libraries is what happens to me is that I'll get a song idea and I'll grab one out of my favourites, which I have like 20 or 30 loops, and if I can't find anything in my favourites which kind of fits the idea, then I go hunting through the loop library, and then 10 minutes later I've kind of auditioned 50 or 60 loops and I've almost forgotten what
the great idea
what the hell it was I was looking for. And it's almost debilitating, mind-numbing. It almost expunges the idea to start with. And so by the time you've found a great loop, often you're writing something else by that stage.
You make a cup of tea.
Yeah, that's right. You go and have a cup of tea and lie down. And so,
sit back and go, gee, the drums sound great.
It's just a shame there's no idea to go with it.
Thinking that I've actually created this drum loop when all you've done is just loaded a...
Yes.
Now, back in my day...
After it'd be like auditioning 50 drummers, wouldn't it?
Well, I can remember going back to the early 80s, the first drum machines, you actually had to tap in the beats you wanted. So you'd have to go boom, chap, boom, chap, boom,
but I still think
and then the hi-hats in, tit, 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 and you play it back and you think, it's great, and then you go, hang on a minute.
That's how you say the hi-hats.
It's terrible. Sorry?
No.
Yeah, well, they were at best a poor facsimile of a real drummer for about 3 seconds. but they did allow us to write to a
and to kick out
to
the
a
drummer of the
groove.
band.
Yes.
That we didn't have the chance to write to a groove, and it's certainly a very positive way to write. Finding some groove, particularly when you've got that groove in your mind starting out, and everything suits, and you don't have to go hunting around for fresh loops all the time. But I think all this means that there's a tendency to forget how really important a drummer is in a lot of music, and that because of these mad craze to write everything on computers, it's pushed the drummers out of the picture in some musical styles a bit. But I mean, I can tell you, it's a heartwarming experience to see a song you've written formerly on a loop in the hands of a drummer and watch it come to life.
Yes,
I think we last podcast we said we were talking about how Jerry Pentazas, the drummer that has graced my tracks, and they came to life in a way that it just sounded suddenly like a live band, because he was responding to everything on the track.
Yeah.
He was suddenly a human being playing, as opposed to something that, is just, even though some of these tracks are wonderful samples from great drummers, obviously, they're not responding to what you're playing. It's just a little...
No, you have to react to them.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably, some ways, it's really nice writing with someone with no drums,
Absolutely.
just have a guitar and voice, or maybe bouncing off someone else.
I think it's really critical to make sure you turn the damn drum loop off, and also write without any background. So write with no rhythm influences other than what you're actually playing. You don't have to be a great player, you just play your favourite rhythms, that's fine. And that's how you've written some wonderful songs, Kate. And the kind of groove becomes...
By not being a great player.
By not being a great player, that's certainly an advantage in your case, but
I leave a lot to the imagination, and then I bring the best players in.
That's
a tip out there for you,
Yeah,
all you guitarists, singer-songwriters who can't really play that well. Hang with the guys that can.
Surround yourself with good musicians.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always, and as I tell all my students, always look to be surrounded by people who are better players than you.
Yeah.
And all you do is learn.
And I think as a songwriter, someone who has, as an example, written a song, and I'll just play 4 chords. We've all heard these chords before, like, I've got nervous now.
Don't be.
Great, Roger McLachlan.
I'll just play like straight eights.
There will be a test on this later, folks.
Now, a lot of people have written songs around those.
Yeah.
In fact, we just had a listen to a couple. I think The Train have written a song around those chords.
Yeah.
Different. How's the rhythm?
Their rhythm is, so that's like straight 8. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
That's the 80s.
Yeah. Well,
Sounds like the Cars, or
all that eight stuff. So there seems to be a bit of a trend now. Take those chords like Train, and excuse my kind of rough playing, but they're more. So it's getting away. It's kind of
So in musical terms, what's the difference between those two grooves?
Well, this is straight 8s. 1 and very straight up and down. And this is a bit more. It's actually shuffled 16ths, isn't it? As opposed to. They've gone.
So by shuffling,
those 16ths become swung or shuffled, as we like sometimes. A 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, or 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4.
So technically, a shuffle being like a longer note followed by a shorter note.
Which is what I guess you could say a blues, like.
Da 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 da.
You just take that rhythm and speed up. And you get to the Maori strum. See, being a Kiwi,
that's right. Well, you'll be an expert at it.
I'm an expert at it. And talking about singers and musicians and cultures that just pick a guitar up
and play,
their groove and feeling, and there's no drums, and they've got that. Being a Kiwi, call it the Maori shuffle, and it's like that. Got that real island, that island strum.
Exactly.
So every song
Which
they
was a
play
wonderful
has the Maori strum.
Which was, of course, a wonderful way that another islander, of course, that famous version of "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," which
I think who that was.
Oh, the ukulele dude.
yeah, it's a
what's
very
his
famous.
name?
He's Hawaiian.
Where are we? Yeah.
It's a version with 3 chords in it.
Yeah.
Instead of all the other chords, yeah. And that
Got a
was,
mind blank on that.
So-
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you're right. That rhythm, you know, and even
if
getting.
you know who that is, please write in. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just got
Can't think of
that
his
fresh
name.
up.
Yeah. What else am I going to say about like taking those chords? And there's another song that's got those same chords, and it's more reggae. So you can take those, the E chord, the B chord, C sharp minor, A, and we're doing straight 8s, and then we're doing.
Yeah.
What's the other
Jupiter
song? It's
thing?
my reggae. It's like. Sorry, copyright. But you know what I mean? It's this, what I'm saying is it's the same chords. It's amazing.
Yeah. Which, of course, is Train's other big hit at the moment.
Hey, Soul Sister.
Hey Soul Sister. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there.
They're just all ripping themselves off, aren't they?
Well,
But I think as a songwriter, I think if you've written a song, and I think you've risen to the challenge, Kate, with some of the songs on your new album that you've primarily written on acoustic. And I know you're going to give us a demo of that down the track.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But I think sometimes as a singer, you've got to be prepared when you invite musicians in, you've got to be prepared to let go. Like, here's the song, but let go of all your preconceived ideas and allow the musician to say, well, hey, we could play it in this group.
Yeah, absolutely.
We could make this funky. I'm going to play no drums on this, maybe some percussion.
Yeah.
And you might have had something else in mind, or allowing musicians and that to actually take that simple simple rhythm you're playing and take it to somewhere else altogether.
Yeah.
Because when you're working with other musicians, you're really bringing their skills to bear on the problem, aren't you?
Yeah.
So why would you want to then kind of smudge all that out? I remember you telling me years ago you used to do bass sessions where you'd come in and they'd play some nearly completed track for you.
Yes.
And they'd say, "Oh, look, we just want you to just do take after take after take." And you play the whole thing 4 or 5 times, and then you'd be sent on your way.
Yes.
Whereupon the producer would then spend days cutting it up, note for note by note by note, and creating something you'd never played, which never seemed to be in the least bit reasonable to me. Why not?
Everybody wants to be a producer.
Why not use the skills of a world-class player to play the bass part?
Yeah.
Were you world class?
Yeah, I was.
I mean, they would have had to have obviously got one in then to do that.
Yeah.
But it never seemed to be much of a great idea. But it's probably the need to be in control of
I
everything.
try not to do that so much. Sometimes I've just let them have their merry way and go. But sometimes I'll actually say then go, no, I actually like to leave with the bass part recorded, kind of like the old days, but actually leaving with a performance that was recorded on tape. Yeah, that they can't mess with anymore. That's it, set in stone. Yeah,
and we do that a lot when we record. Is try to get a take.
Yes,
and not go back to bar 3 and drop in there, and bar 5 and drop in a different lick there.
I like that chorus. I'll just cut that in.
And we've recorded a lot of material where the bass part is like, if it's not 1 take, it's only 2 takes.
Yeah.
Maybe a different take in the outros or something like that, but it really benefits from it as you develop the part throughout the song. The groove changes, and the intensity and the general dynamics of the part change and morph as the song progresses, as you're reacting to the other parts.
Obviously, you've got to put a vocal down, but rather than perfecting that vocal, having any idea of that, just put a guide vocal down, and that. So you got a shape of the song. So you say you've got guitar and a guide vocal, and then you want to put piano down, and then that might strip out the guitar. So you really got to get piano bass song, and then putting bass down, and so forth and so on. And after a while, it might be a month down the track, you're so used to this vocal that you actually quite like it. And so be prepared that a lot of those so-called guide vocals that you just ran off, not nervous because it wasn't going to be the final vocal, so you weren't all charged up and
nervous or whatever.
Oh God, this is going to be so good. You know, actually it is good because you're just being yourself and just really singing it out of the way you've always sang it. So a lot of the guide vocals that I started out with ended up being
in the final mix.
In the final mix, and I really wouldn't have expected that. Otherwise, I would have done better on the day.
That's right. Yeah, well, that's right.
Look, you're right. And
try and figure out that logic.
I think we inevitably are charmed by the casual nature of a lot of vocals, where you weren't really trying so hard, and so there is a problem. People who've played in bands in recording studios where everybody goes in the studio and sets up and it's all mic'd up and everybody starts playing, you encounter this little syndrome where you do 3 or 4 runs through and then you start doing a few takes and it starts getting stopped by the engineer or the producer because somebody stuffs it up, and so you start playing safer and safer and safer. Everybody starts playing super safe in order to get through it without mucking it up.
To get the take,
and the song turns to crap. As a result, it becomes a really safe, kind of pissy version without any gusto and without any commitment and any attitude.
Because people are afraid to muck everyone else up.
The first cut is the deepest.
Which is there's always that.
Baby, I know.
There's that engineer's rule of recording where when it comes to guitar solos, always make sure you're in record the first pass. Never give a guitar player a run through. Often his first solo is his best for the whole day.
And I can confirm that. It's very true. I've had exactly the same experiences going in recording bass on someone's track. Pretty much a finished track. Sometimes they want to play me the bass line. Sometimes I'll ask that question before I walk in. I said, do you just want to play me the track without the bass for a minute? So plug me in, let's get a sound. Haven't even listened to the track. So all right, got a sound up, you're happy, we're not clipping. Right, mute the bass, play the track at me. And I will just
react to it.
Totally react to it, you know. Now I may go to some wrong notes. In actual fact, by me reacting, I may actually create some new passing chords.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll also purposely kind of go for it a bit, almost treat it a bit like solo bass. In other words, I'll kind of give them all the ideas that are rattling around in my head. Kind of bit of slap, or I might go to reggae here. But basically what I'm doing is just kind of throwing all the ideas out and seeing if I get a reaction from the writers or the engineers, producers.
The other day, we were recording bass to one of Kate's tracks on her album called Rise. And we did exactly that. And that song will be commercially released with a bass part that was played in one pass, one take, because it's just spectacular.
I really enjoyed that because I really only listened to it a couple of times. I kind of had an idea where it was going, and I said, "Look, let's just go for it."
And I'm calling out a few chords for you as a go.
We're coming to the B section,
and you're just playing it,
and I'm just going for it. Stop here, right? Fill back in, and I was just reacting, you know, treating it like a live gig, you know.
And it came out great.
My heart rate was up. I had a little beat of sweat, you know, going for the performance.
And we gave you your $20 and sent you on your way.
And I was a happy boy.
That's right.
You see, $20, a cup of coffee on your way, son.
And all the aggravation you can handle.
Bit of a lie down.
Yes, and a lie down. That's it.
All right, well, that's a bit of a wrap about songwriting, grooves.
Yes, hope we cast a few shadows on the light. Or was it the other way around? So I hope we didn't confuse anybody. If we did, hard luck. We'll fix that up in the next episode.
Maybe go and have a listen to a couple of those songs.
Absolutely.
Certainly listen to
and even the John Mayer, All You Ever Do Is Say Goodbye. Just listen to the rhythm of the acoustic guitar, you know, because he really is setting up the whole groove with the acoustic guitar.
So, well, that's enough from me, for certain.
Yes. It's more than enough from me.
Okay. That's enough from me.
Bye.